So welcome, gentlemen. This is the second video in the series on journaling as a personal daily practice. The first video, we dived into the overall ideas behind journaling, why you want to be doing that as a practice for shaping and forming the trajectory of your life. And this video, we're going to be going very much into the practical details of how to do it, looking at the individual questions that I'm answering and looking at the questions of, so you can pretty much just get started with it after this. So before I go into the actual questions, I just want to say one thing about your personal journaling practice, and that is the importance of making it as much as possible a special and separated thing that you're doing from the rest of your life. And so there's lots of ways that you can do this. You can find a separate space. You can use a specific book that you're writing in, or you can just as much as possible create a boundary around your practice to be able to focus your attention as much as possible on that task. If you're doing it kind of like mixed in and at different times and all kinds of different things, then it's going to become much more flowing in. So the more you can kind of put yourself in a little bit of liminal space while you're doing this, that's going to be very good. I think a good way of thinking about it is think of it as a sacred space that you're going into when you do this, which is separate in which you're doing this important work that's going to be kind of determining what it is you're going to be doing for the rest of your time as well. So that's a really, really good thing to do. If you do decide to do it digitally, not inside a book, then I say, find at the very least a separate program that you don't use for anything else. So, some kind of specific journaling program or something like that. I'm sure there's plenty of them out there that you can use for doing your daily journaling. Good. So I'm going to now go into the details of the individual questions that I have. The link for this document is going to be inside the description of this video, and we're going to take a look at each individual question. So first of all, the first thing I do when I sit down, open up my journaling book, get out this page where I can see all these questions, and then I start writing. And what do? Well, I write what's on my heart. Whatever it is that's kind of bubbling up into my consciousness, something that has been bothering me, that's been challenging me. Maybe, I was lying in bed last night thinking about it. Maybe it was a difficult conversation that I had with somebody that I don't feel I've completely resolved. Maybe it's a difficult decision that I'm sitting with in my life as well. Whatever it is, this is the opportunity that I have to really try and pinpoint, well, what is it that I'm actually doing there? What am I trying to achieve there? What is it that's not fitting in properly? And so I can kind of like be taking that with me and making sure that I'm dealing with things and confronting the challenges of existence with my journaling practice as well. So sometimes most of the time I write 2 lines or 3 lines. I really try and be precise and direct. And then occasionally I'll write like 10, 20 lines or something like that. And it probably happens like once a year where I'll probably write like 2 pages of something that I'm really struggling with, or where I'm really not sure about something, and then I have a lot on my heart. And so getting it down onto paper is a really good way of organizing your thoughts. Ideas and thoughts, they kind of bubble up and they can be very chaotic all the time. So writing them down helps me to put it into a structure and to think about it in a more thorough and rational way. And so it's a very, very helpful and useful tool for making sure that we get these things right. The moment I start noticing that I'm writing in cliches or I'm not writing from my heart anymore, that probably means it's time to move on. So if I notice that I'm just kind of writing something, but it's not really coming from a place that feels really identified with me, then that's a good sign to stop. So most of the time I'm really just using 30 seconds to a minute on this at the most. And occasionally it'll be a little bit longer, and as long as it's really coming from my heart, then that's okay. Obviously there can be time constraints of you have a back end, but things that need to come out of there, it's a really good way to get them out. The next question that I have is reflections on wisdom that I've received yesterday. So again, we're living in a time, and most of us consume a whole lot of content that we find very inspiring, very challenging, very deep, very meaningful. But where we lack a lot of the time is then taking that information and implementing it into our own lives. And so right now I'm reading the life story of a guy called St. Paisios, and it's incredibly powerful stuff that I'm reading there. And it's so easy to just read and be like, wow, and this is a great way of doing spiritual bypassing as well, as I feel like I'm growing as a human being because I'm getting all of these insights. But if I'm not actually taking those insights and then saying, well, how does that then apply to my life? And how am I going to be, making sure that I'm following something that inspires me and trying to see how I can be stepping in the footsteps of men who have done other things that I can look up to. And finding my way of going through those things, then there's a real big risk of that I'm just kind of wasting my time actually and not moving anywhere. So making sure, is there a specific measurable action that I need to take? Do I need to phone up a brother or pay a debt, apologize for a mistake, or stop by a friend's house and help them move some furniture, whatever it is, try to get down to those practical things that need to happen based on what I read or consumed, of a podcast or whatever it is, a conversation with somebody else. It's a very important thing to do every single day. Next question is, what happened? Which achievement, milestone, or result happened yesterday? And what am I grateful for in regards to that? So obviously it's good to celebrate achievements, to be able to look at the positive things, understand and see how things are adding up in your life and moving you in a specific direction. And then, a big part of this work for me and the whole system that we're using in Manifesto is to also maintain awareness and perspective of that there's something bigger going on, and you're a part of something, but it's only when you're contributing to something. And so there's so much to be grateful for in everything that we've achieved. If I've had some kind of success, then there were so many different people and things, and things that I've received as well, of my health and the ability to use all my facilities and the time, and people who've helped me to be able to look after certain things so that I can dedicate my time and energy to a specific project. So I've needed all of those things to be able to achieve the things that I have. And so this is a really good way. A lot of people talk a lot about how important it is to have gratitude. And I think specifically tying gratitude to the concrete achievements and successes and wins that you've had, milestones and big projects, it's a very, very good way of bringing gratitude into your daily practice. Good. Next point is number 4, which is, did I complete my MIT yesterday? MIT is the most important thing. We at Manifesto, we use these MITs. We define every single day what is the most important thing, and if there are multiple things, and then we also track them to make sure that we're actually reaching them. And so this is the primary way that we're bringing our ideas about what we want to do in line with the reality of what it is we're actually doing. If you're just making sure you're doing the most important stuff every single day, then it's a very good way of moving you towards a goal. So the next question is, then I write out every single week. And so the next video in this series is going to be on the weekly journaling questions. And that'll be probably the last one in the series. But every week I'm going to be writing out my MITs. And I'll only write down the ones on a daily basis that are relevant for that day. So I'll go and read all of the MITs that I have for this week, and then the ones that I think could be relevant for today, I'll write those down. And the other ones, I would have read them, and I've also got the overview, so I know, am I on target for reaching all of my week's MITs when I set the ones that I want to do today as well, of course. Yes, then with that done, I'm ready to go to point number 6, which is planning out my day. So I'm listing all the appointments and the important tasks that I need to do today. And this is a really, really good thing of concretely, I write down very shortly. So I'll write 9 a.m. John and 7 p.m. podcast interview and 10 p.m. Family, whatever it is. So the important things that need to happen today, I'll put them in, and then from there I'll decide, okay, well now I've got to do this, this, and this, and so then I need to track in when those things, plot in when those things need to happen as well. And so that's a very good way of making sure that I have an overview of my day and I know what I'm going to be using my time in. That's where I can get a feeling for this day, and can I hold it and manage the whole thing and everything that needs to happen as well, or do I need to adjust some things as well? And sometimes, based on doing this, I'll see whoa, this is too difficult. Then I'll make a note okay, the first thing I need to do is cancel this meeting or something like that. Or, okay, I have space today, so I can go for a walk in nature or something like that. So that's a really good way of getting that overview and make sure I'm getting the good balance out of my day every single day. Yep. Based on that, one thing I can get excited about today, if I have a very long time where it's hard to answer this question, that I know that I'm probably putting my time and my energy and my focus on things that are not aligned with what I really want to be doing with my life. So it's really, really good to be connecting every single morning with something about my day that excites me, that I'm looking forward to, that I can reward myself with in some ways as well with the day. So that's good. Flip side of that, of course, is that there are always solutions which could trip me up. And so being proactive with those, it's normally very, very predictable. I'm a pretty boring, predictable person in the ways that I mess up and self-sabotage my own life. And so, when I write this stuff down, then I get to be much more proactive about, being able to recognize what are those kind of situations that can lead me into messing up, failing somehow, and then I can just make sure that I try and avoid those situations. It happens sometimes still, obviously, as well, but this one has saved many days for me as well. So it's a good one to have in there. So that's good. And some of the things, I've written them down so many times that I don't need to write them down anymore. So that's really nice as well. You start learning like, oh yeah, I can actually integrate that learning as well. Yeah. Next question. This is basically the basic maintenance of making sure that I have fuel for my day and my energy. So I'm saying, when is a good opportunity to recharge energy? And a lot of the time, this is to connect with my wife. So I'm making sure that I'm connecting with a specific person that I know is kind of really helping me to get that foundational mindset in order, and that I'm doing the important things. I can be very focused sometimes on business goals and all the things that I have to do, but I know that if I don't have that fundamental connection to my life partner, then a lot of the things I'm doing can suddenly become a little bit superficial as well. So with her, and then of course our son as well, that's really, really good for me, making a regular connection. But sometimes it's also with other people as well, or there's sometimes I need to have time by myself or something like that in order to might be I just need a nap as well, and so I'll make sure that I have that in my calendar. So this is kind of after I've set the adjustments, I might want to adjust something in my calendar, my date, my time plan to take account of this. Yes, and then having done all of this, I'm now ready to say, like, okay, well, what is the MITs of the day? And normally there'll be one most important thing, and generally I'll have three things. And the question that I have there comes from a book which I think is of the same name. What is the one thing that I can do today that makes everything else easier or unnecessary? And it's a really good way. So make sure that I'm focusing my attention, my goal, and doing that one thing that's doing the most to move my life forward. At a most holistic and comprehensive level. And then there can be other priorities underneath that are also very important, but having that one thing is really, really useful to make sure that I'm looking at the biggest and most important things in my life, and that I'm moving things forward. I'm not getting caught up in all the small details and the things that are, the shiny objects or the people who are screaming the loudest or something like that, to be distracting me. Yes. And then finally, after all of this, then I use the first couple of pages in my journal here to be tracking the specific habits that I'm working on implementing in my life, so that and I find that that tracking when I'm implementing new habits is the way that we can form our behaviors the most. And implementing a new habit, it takes tracking and normally also accountability with an accountability buddy. So that's something we also work a lot with in Manifesto, is having an accountability buddy who's helping with that. So yeah, that was the daily journaling questions. And just to finish off, I think it's really important to put this in a context of having this daily journaling. It's really, really good for just sorting out all the basic stuff in your life and getting an overview of where am I right now and what am I actually up to, and to draw that thread from day to day to day to day. So you're actually suddenly joining your days together, so they're not just like a big kind of creative, chaotic mess. And I mentioned in the journal, we saw that there's a connection now out to the weekly MITs. So the next video is going to be about the weekly priorities and doing the weekly journaling. I do mine every Monday morning. A lot of people I know do it on Sunday evenings. But then from that weekly level, it's also very, very important. There's a connection up to a higher level as well. And probably we're not going to be able to cover that just here on YouTube. But that's what we're working on in Manifesto Core. So we go to kind of like more mid-level, midterm goals, like quarterly goals. And then ultimately, it's really about having a vision for your life. So everything that you're doing, if you start answering these questions, then sooner or later, you're going to start asking bigger and bigger questions about like, well, why am I here? And what am I doing? And what is it I'm trying to achieve? And the answer to all of those questions, that is your personal vision. That's what your personal vision contains. And so that's absolutely vital. After you've been doing this for some time, you'll really feel the need for having a clear, compelling, and very inspiring personal vision for yourself. So that's what we're working on Manifesto Core. You can go to manifesto.com, click on Core up in the top menu if you're interested in checking that out. And also on the 20th of January, I've just actually set up, we're going to be holding a weekend retreat, which is going to be specifically focused on working on personal vision. So if that's something that you think sounds interesting, then it's going to be a kampkracht weekend. Kampkracht means fighting energy in Danish. And so it's about taking what's actually a training philosophy for physical training from the Danish military and kind of utilizing that to learn how we being able to harness and cultivate our energy as much as possible to take those battles that every single one of us has to face in our life in order to reach the goals that we're aiming for. So hope that sounds interesting. Love to hear your comments on the video here, on the daily journaling, on the questions that are available. Especially take those questions, put them into a little document, print them out, and start trying to do this journaling in the morning. Make a commitment to do it every day for a week or a month, and let me know how it goes. It'd be really great to hear from people. And obviously, as you get into it, you'll start adjusting them and tailoring it more and more for your own purposes. So it'd be great to hear from people who give that a shot. And let me know. Thanks.